sis.
Hey, sis.
Hey, Sister Circle.
I'm your big sis, April.
And I'm your little sis, Tiffany. And we are Sister Talk Network podcast.
Sisters bridging the generational gap while encouraging candid conversations
and healing amongst women, friends, and sisters. You have a sister now.
Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. Hey, Sister Circle. We are back. We are back. We are back.
Yes.
I am your big sis,
And
April,
I'm your little sis, Tiffany.
and we are
Sister Talks Network podcast.
podcast. We are back. We are back.
Yes.
So this morning, when we were originally talking, we had a different topic in mind and I wanted to talk about some other things, but I felt led to go back to what we were talking about last week about that inner child
Mm.
and the importance of us gathering that inner child to go forward in purpose. Like I clearly felt like we're not done with that yet.
Mm.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that. But before we do that, we have to start with our scripture because listen, this is what we got to do
Yes.
all the time until God says not. So we're going to start with that. And it is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And that is Jeremiah 29:11. So sister, and sisters, God has a plan for us. And I believe wholeheartedly that as long as we continue to stay focused on the things of Him, that we are going to see every one of those plans and that purpose come to pass. So
Yes.
now we can get back to talking about that inner child. And we kind of left off saying that with losing our mom, that it forced you
Mm.
to come to a point of now I really have to deal with that little girl because it was a collision of the adult in me and the little girl in me who no longer has the support of her mom and needing those two to come into alignment to carry you through the next stages of your life,
Yeah.
which is very important. But we say that, we talk about it, okay, go back and get the little girl. It's not the first time we mention it, but what does that look like? You know, like, is we can't just say this is what you have to do, but not really provide more insight into to what that looks
Mm.
like. So I think that means really looking inward and understanding yourself and understanding your habits, understanding your triggers, understanding those things to make you ask the questions of what do these things mean
Mm.
for you?
For me, it is like with the loss of mom, I was able to call on her. Like I was able
Mm-hmm.
to that little girl version, even up until now, like I was able to, anything I needed or even stuff that I didn't even have to ask for. Mom, she showed up. She showed up for me. She showed up for the kids. Some things I didn't even know until she got there. Like, oh Lord, she pulling up at the house. You see the car pull up and it's just like what she want, but she was so in tuned as a mom to where she just instinctively knew. So
Mm-hmm.
now when people I never had to explain myself of what was needed because I had her that I didn't have to have no words. So now being adult and not having her and just finding the words that I didn't necessarily need before of
Mm-hmm.
everybody who surrounded me and saying, "Hey, what do you need? What do you need?" I never had to do that before. I had the privilege of having someone that I did there didn't need to be any words in order to for her to understand what was needed.
Mm-hmm.
She in some ways she knew me and knew my kids better than they did or that I did. So that version of me, that dependency, that that version of having a safe place, of feeling like no matter what hell breaks loose in the world, I knew that I felt like I had a safe place. And I feel like
Yeah.
it was suddenly ripped away from me. So
Hmm.
I feel like
I hear you.
that part of just trying to get and tell that little girl and myself that we're gonna be okay together is something I'm
Hmm.
struggling with. Because some days I'll be like, oh, I'm fine. I get the kids ready for school and everything's good. I struggle with their emotions too because my kids are hurt. Um, so like just battling all of these different emotions and their emotions as I go through this is it's a new realm for me.
Right. Right. Something that you've never had to deal with before. So you said a lot. So what I first want to say to you is you still have a safe place.
Mm,
Like, although that safe place doesn't show up in the same way through mom,
mm,
I just want to assure you that you always have a safe place with me.
mm.
The difference between me and her is I'm not going to pull up and wreck your day because you sounded a little funny on the phone, or where she would call me and be like, have you talked to Tiffany today, because something just ain't right, she's saying everything is all right but it's not all right. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to go to God in prayer unless you tell me, okay, I need you to pull up, and then I'm going to pull up.
Mm,
But it, based on everything you said and what I'm hearing you say, is like you had her as your support. You've always had her to just instinctively know this is a need, this is what I have to do, and then she's there on the scene. So it sounds like you're now forced to find the adult in you, because she was always that mother, and sometimes to a fault, like that smothering
mm,
mother that didn't really allow you to grow and to be prepared for some things. And it was because she just loved, that's how she
yeah.
loved. She wanted to shield from all the things that she could shield you from, but it was to a fault. So now you have to find out, okay, how do I show up in this world as an adult, because that's basically what it is.
Mm,
um, and knowing that I still have support, but support in a different way, where it's like, and I talked to you a little bit about this before, where even with mom, God showed me in a way that towards the end of her life, I had made myself God in her life.
mm,
I wanted to control all things. I wanted to be there for all things. I wanted to protect her. I wanted to save her. But that wasn't my position to take. And it wasn't until me doing some self work and trying to understand like where I crossed that line, that God was showing me like I definitely crossed the line, because I was trying to take the place of things that he needed to
yeah.
do. And I feel the same way for you. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know a mother is going to be that security. They're going to be everything to you.
Mm,
But at some point, and I know it's hard as a mother, we realize, or have to realize, that we're not their God. God loaned them to us to navigate through this life, but ultimately they belong to Him.
mm,
So you now finding that safe space in community, in me, in community, and most importantly, in God,
mm,
and trusting Him to be that person to you, that protector, all of the things that you needed, along with us.
yeah.
And I know that's not easy. That's not easy.
Yes, it's not. But and then too,
Mm-mm.
like if I sense that you're having an okay day, I'm not gonna call you and tell you, um, one of the kids wants to release birthday balloons in the air to send them to mom. Like there's
I know. It's hard. And that's what I was saying to you a while back. And we were talking to each other and saying that because this is the first time that we had to go through something together,
mm,
it's hard for us to show up for each other each day. Because, like I've said to you, some days, like I have nothing. Like, I have my mental capacity is only going to take me so
yeah,
far. And you saying the same thing. But I think it's important, no matter what type of day you feel like I'm having or what type of day I feel like you're having, to just say, it doesn't have to be a whole mental breakdown, but to just say, like, hey, this is where I'm at today. I need some support. Like, even if it's just prayer or just needing to vent or somebody to listen, like, no matter what that looks like, uh, because we got to walk through this together.
yeah,
We're healing together. And we have to, we got to, like you said, we have to find a way to show up for each other, even when the other person doesn't really know or say what they need.
mm,
So I'd rather you say something to give me just an indicator of, hey, she may need a little bit of support today, whether it's prayer, whether it's bringing dinner to the house, anything
yeah,
that can be done.
yeah,
Because your struggle is a lot harder than mine. Because although I deal with my things and I deal with the grief and everything on the daily, I don't have three babies that I'm accountable for as well and dealing with their grief triggers and things like that also.
I think it's a catch-22 because I don't view it as mine's is harder, but that is just different. Because in that same
Mm,
token, I also am thankful for even though sometimes I be spazzing, but I don't know what I would do with quiet time. So it's like
yeah.
I thank God for some of the times where there's complete chaos in my house because
Hmm.
the enemy don't really have too much time to talk. it's,
Right.
it is loud in my house majority of the time.
Yeah.
And then when it's
Hmm.
quiet, you got to do a double check. You be like, wait a minute, what's going on? But yeah, it's a catch 22. So I wouldn't say that I
Hmm.
necessarily have it easy, harder or easier. It's just it's different for both of us.
Yeah. And the quiet time that's the hard time.
Mhm.
Like when you sit and get quiet with anything. If you're sick in your physical body, your mind, no matter what it is, that's when things come. But I think that although this situation is the hardest thing that I had to go through and you've had to go through, that is going to give us the opportunity to go back, channel that inner child. Although the worlds are colliding quickly and it's not the way that we would want it
Mhm.
to, unfortunately it's probably the only way we would have done it, because we've talked about telling ourselves, okay, well, I'm not going to deal with her today. I'm going to focus on these other things. I'm going to give her a day or deal with these issues that I'm having for like a couple hours, and I'm going to push that back until something else comes up.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have to be so deliberate in understanding us, like, and truly knowing ourselves and knowing our habits and our
Mhm.
triggers. It's like when I show up in a room of people and someone says something to me that may or may not be judgmental, but I perceive it that way. Why?
Mhm.
Like really starting to ask ourselves those questions of why, and understanding that those things are all a result of something that happened at some point in our lives.
Mhm.
So I'm really now evaluating everything. Like I even had to ask myself, in a group of friends, like where I was feeling a certain way, and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? And then identifying the generational patterns, it's just like a learned behavior of, oh, this is what we did, but I don't want to be that person anymore. Like really wanting to authentically show up as myself in every situation, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
So that's the struggle.
That's important. I think not losing ourselves in this
Hmm.
and being authentically who we are. I think I've always like to a default somebody asks me how I am and I've always said I'm fine. Um
Mm,
just to not upset anybody else or to make anybody else shift in their seats of the uncomfortable feeling of grief. And just like even within my household and just being like, no, I need a minute. The kids is asking, I tell my kids, count to 10 and then come back and I can give help you with this or I can be mommy, but give me count to 10
hmm.
and I'm gonna come back, but give me a little bit.
So that's a change, and that's a good thing because you've openly talked about being a kid and feeling that you had to make other people feel safe or not feel uncomfortable, so you just hid your feelings or pushed them down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you were able to identify in yourself and work on healing as an adult and allowing yourself to feel the grief and allowing yourself to say, listen, I'm just having a bad moment, I'm having a bad day, and it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's freeing in a way, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think that in healing that little girl and bringing that little girl up to adulthood, which is ultimately our goal, we first have to have compassion on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
for what we've been through and also acceptance. And accepting those hard times, those things that we've had to go through, no matter how hard they are.
Mm-hmm.
When I think back on some of the memories that I have that make me cringe, my life, myself, my teenage years, my young adult years,
Mm-hmm.
and the shame that came along with those things, and removing that shame from those memories is a huge first step in healing our younger selves. Once we take the shame out of those things, it's like, okay, now I can do anything. Because once the enemy can't use those things against you anymore, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about it. I'm good. And that's a big thing too. That's a big thing too. That's hard. That's really hard to do. I just in talking to some people that I've recently met, and I think I talked about this. I know I talked about this before in a previous episode, where a girl I had met, and like she's so strong, like she's just such a strong person. She commands the room. She's eloquent. She's a speaker. She's all of these things. But in hearing her story and the shame behind that story, kept her from really being where she needed to be. But releasing that story and releasing that shame and going forward, and how much further does God want to take her? How much further does God want to take us once we take the shame out of those things that have happened in our life?
Yeah.
So we're going to get there. We're going to keep working on it and get there
Yeah, we are.
to take that shame
We
out.
gotta
Hmm.
we gotta talk about that. Like, gotta do that in another episode where like just not
Okay.
letting the enemy have the playground. It
Hmm.
and I know we've all struggled with different stuff, and just like for me right now on not falling into bad habits for comfort.
Hmm.
Because I went through a whole half of container of Keebler Elf cookies and was just like I laying in bed watching my horror
Yeah.
movies and was just like I
Hmm.
can't do this. This is gonna be a dangerous
No.
road to go down, and I'm trying to unbig my
Hmm.
back. So, as
Hmm.
they say, so like just doing that, I can't go down that road and just realizing it of not letting the enemy have that. Like, no, I'm not gonna sit up here. I'm not gonna eat the rest of these cookies. I'm not gonna sit up here and on my third glass of wine because I miss mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that's a part of moving from the kid to the adult, you know. And I'm with you on that. Last night I was just in the store, went to get some milk to make something I needed for dinner, and saw the lemon Oreos, which I
Yeah.
love, and had to talk myself out of it as I'm walking out the store. And still last night was in the bed thinking about them Oreos. But I was glad I didn't get them, because if I had, I would have been like you in that bed eating those Oreos last night. So it's yeah, it's making those decisions, which are the hard decisions, that are going to help us like in our future, and not uh, falling back into those old patterns of self-medicating, whether it be drinking, whether it be eating, whether it be people do all kinds of stuff, and allowing ourselves to feel those feelings, because that's where the only way the healing truly comes.
Mm.
And I don't know if I talked to you about it, or I was talking to somebody else and telling them that, because I'm consciously trying to make these changes, because I want God to do whatever He wants to do, and I want that inner little girl to be healed so that I can walk fully in purpose and knowing everything that He designed to be used for this time,
Mm.
that I'm not allowing myself to eat the bag of cookies. I'm not allowing myself to drink um, excessively, other than a glass of wine occasionally or something like that. And realizing that food, and I talked about this before, but food was my thing. Like, so anytime anything happened, happy, sad, we celebrating, it's always food. Watching TV is food.
Mm.
So now it's like I'm forced to feel these things and to rely solely on God and the Holy Spirit to get me through those moments. And it's tough. It's hard. I don't want to take a walk to ease my mind. I don't want to deep breathe, like all the things, cliche things they tell you to do
Yeah.
to get you through that moment. I want to eat them cookies. So it is. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. But I think the more we identify those habits and ask ourselves why, okay, why am I feeling like this? Why does this trigger me? What is going on in this moment? And start to journal them, or just identify them in the moment to know, okay, what is this? What is this? I was just talking to one of my friends this morning, and she's about 10 years older than me, but even at this age now, she's really like, she wants to live, like she's living to live. Like most people, as they get older, they're basically living to die, because you have all these unhealthy habits, you're self-medicating yourself because of all the trauma and things that you may have experienced. But she's like, no, she's living to live, and like really tapping into to God and her spirituality, and eating better and working out and doing all of those things that are going to allow her to live her latter days better, and to truly tap into the purpose that God has for her. Although it's later in life, you know, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for me, because for me it's later in life, because I've never allowed myself to feel anything. The trauma, like all the things that have happened, never allowed myself to feel. But now it's like, okay, I need to do what God is asking me to do by any means necessary. So it's going to mean feeling all the feels and pulling that little 10-year-old up
Yeah.
to now. So we going to get
Yeah.
there one step at a time.
I think when you said when you gave an age to it and you said the 10-year-old, I'm still
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what age. Like, it's definitely finding that little girl. You have to find out what age you got stuck at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like I had several times where I got stuck. So it's like, okay, where am I at right now? What part of me feels like it's stuck? And what part of me can I bring over? Or what part, because not everything needs to be brought over. Some of that stuff you just gotta give to God
Right.
and keep praying over.
Yeah.
I know we say give it to God a lot, but continually praying over it. Like for me, it's not, I'm not one of them people where I give it to him one time and it stays there. It's a daily practice for me of, if I don't practice it daily, I'm carrying something for 2 to 3 months that I done told him I done put down and I didn't. So just daily doing that check-in of, okay, what am I carrying? What can I put down?
Yeah, that what you said something that was so key, and that's giving it to him daily, renewing our minds daily. Because if we don't do that, at some point, like you said, we picked it back up, and we didn't even know we picked it back up,
Yeah.
but we have. So I think that for you and really identifying, and I say 10 because I've told you and our sisters, like I have a gap where I really don't remember much in my life, and the 10-year-old is where I feel like some of the memories start to come back. So that's why I use that part of it. So it's actually those younger years that I don't really remember much of, but as I got into like 11, 10, 11, 12, I can kind of start to remember more about my life.
Okay.
But for you, I think it's important, which for me and for our sisters, when you understand those triggers, like take notice of everything. Take notice of everything, everything that happens, everything that triggers you, your habits, good habits, bad habits. Ask the whole, sit quiet with it. Ask the Holy Spirit, what does this mean? What do you want to do with this? And I really do believe that God will start to give you insight about those things, and how they're connected, and take you back to that time in your life that they're connected to allow you to put a better number on that,
Mhm.
like to kind of understand, and not even necessarily a number, a state of mind to understand where you are. It doesn't have to necessarily be a number. Because for me, like I said, I just have the number because I remember things after that. But do I really have the state of mind that's attached to those things that held me back? Not yet. But I know it's gonna come.
Mhm.
It's gonna come. And then I think the last thing that's just so important, and we talk about it all the time, is just affirming ourselves and that younger child that it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. No matter what happens, you're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And that we're walking this thing out together. I love all of the recent things that I'm seeing on social media where it's the younger girl looking in the mirror, and you see the older version of
Yeah.
her, and just looking back, like it's really going to be okay. And we have to tell ourselves that continually, that no matter what it looks like, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of it is for you, like as you do those things for yourself, I just see how you're showing up for your kids.
Mhm.
Your kids won't have the same issues that you have because you show up for them in a way that makes them feel safe, but you're preparing them for life.
Yeah.
So I believe that when they get to that stage of adulthood, they will be prepared for life, which is important.
Yeah. The ultimate goal.
So yeah, 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 showing up for your kids, because even if you don't get it 100% right, because like for us, I don't think we'll ever really understand the true interworkings of ourselves until we see Jesus
Yeah.
and it's all made plain. But just in making sure that they have the tools that they need to know that no matter where you've been, no matter what you've gone through, that you are still all of the things that God says you are. So I think that's a good place to kind of end up before we go with our question, because I had some affirmations that I found earlier, just for myself.
Mhm.
And I want to speak them over myself. I want to speak them over you. I want to speak them over my sisters. And talking to that younger girl in you, and also talking to the current you, and walking together and knowing that no matter where you are in that journey, like I'm 53, but I'm still thinking about the 10-year-old in me, because there's still unhealed trauma that I have to tap into. And knowing that no matter where we are, because of God, because of His grace, because of His mercy, because of His love, and knowing that He's walking with us, we are going to be okay.
Mhm.
So, first off, saying to that little girl, I trust you. Little girl saying to the adult, I trust you. And knowing that as we're walking through this together, we're going to be okay. The second thing is, I believe in you. And when I think back to being a kid, that was something I needed to hear.
Mhm.
I believe in you. You can do anything you want to do. So, since I didn't hear that, or I don't recall hearing that, I should say, I'm speaking that over you, Tiffany, and our sisters. I believe in you. Young Tiffany, teenage Tiffany, adult Tiffany, I believe in you. Third thing, you are worthy of love. You are so worthy of love. No matter where we are in the process, we are worthy of love because God says we're worthy of love.
Mhm.
Important thing, you are enough. No matter what mistakes you've made, no matter what you've done, no matter how shameful it may feel, you are enough. Next thing, you deserve happiness. I don't care what you did. I don't care what life has thrown you. I don't care what people have said to you. I don't care what things people have spoken over your life. You deserve happiness. And the final thing, which is important because no matter where we are, no matter how hard life is, no matter how downtrodden we feel, you have a lot to offer. People are waiting for your light. We all have something that God instilled in us when we were born, when we were innocent, before life ruined everything. God gave us certain gifts that other people are waiting for. So you have a lot to offer. In my coaching class, one of the things that the teacher always said is there's people in the waiting room that are waiting for you. And I would hate to stand before God and realize that I missed the opportunity for those people that were in the waiting room that are waiting for me
Mhm.
to help them, to inspire them to grow into the purpose, the plans that God has for them, which is so important, which is why it's so important for us to heal. And although we've talked about these things, some people need therapy. So, sisters, I encourage you, if you feel like you need therapy and the journaling and the affirmations and all of those things are not sufficient, I encourage you to get therapy, counseling, therapy, coaching, whatever it looks like, whatever you feel like you need. Jesus and therapy
Yeah.
works. Yeah. So those things are important.
Just pray over your
They're
therapist
important.
too. Like, listen, God put up,
Yes.
like, I had an amazing therapist, and it was the most, and it's
Mm-hmm.
hilarious now, but it was the most unlikely person. And if I was like how we talked about before, if I was looking at the shell that the blessing was carried in, I would have completely missed it. I would have completely missed
Mm.
it.
Yeah, and that's so important. I can't remember who said it, but I've heard it said that don't miss your blessing because it's not packaged the way you think it should. Like you may think it could be a homeless person out on the street that has a word for
Mhm.
you, but if you looking down on them, you're gonna miss that blessing. And then we talked about it on the
Yeah,
episode before. When I was in a meeting with the
that
prophetess,
actually happened
and
to me. It was a
really,
we were in Hawaii, and it was a
mm,
homeless person in Hawaii, just as happy as he could be, cracking a coconut off the tree, and wanted to
mm,
share it. Was just like,
oh,
and just the the warm. You couldn't tell me that wasn't no angel or God given.
mm,
The amount of warmness and just a sense of home that
mm,
came off of that man was amazing. Me and my husband sat there and talked to him for like
wow.
a good hour.
Wow. And then full of knowledge, probably full of knowledge,
Yes.
full of wisdom, full of life, full of light, all the things that we don't expect. And yeah, I am so conscious now, even when I'm out and about. It's funny because you're always like this. So I'm learning to be more like that, the
Like, be
light. Just
quiet.
in some, yeah, like be quiet, girl. Stop
Because I
speaking to
rolled down the
everybody.
window in a minute, like, excuse me.
I'm not going that far, but just in smiling at people and engaging them and not being so standoffish. And I've had some amazing conversations with people just by being more welcoming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're gonna continue to do, to be the light and healing. We are healing, we are growing, we are evolving into the best versions of ourselves, the God inspired versions of ourselves. And sisters, I pray for healing for each of you, for wherever you got stuck in life, whether it's child, teenager, young adult. I pray that God will give you the tools to navigate through for complete healing. For those of you that have arrived or have somewhat arrived, to God be the glory, because I'm still on my journey to getting there, and I know that we are going to get there.
Yeah.
So I guess we will wrap up with our question, and that is,
What does sisterhood mean to you?
mm, because we're talking about uh, going back and getting that little girl, I'm going to say affirm. Sisterhood to me means affirm, affirming my sisters for no matter where they are in life, no matter where you are on the journey, affirming that you are all the things that God says you are. So affirm. And what does sisterhood mean to you,
Uh,
sis?
For me, it means embracing the not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for like my community of sisters, allowing them to pour into me how I poured into everybody else. Like if somebody
Mm-hmm.
tells me they're not okay, I'm usually overbearing. Well, I was overbearing, but just allowing people to see me in in a different light that I'm completely uncomfortable in, but just not faking the funk of um this the only time I've actually felt guilty for saying somebody asked me, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And saying like just, "Oh, yeah, I'm okay." Knowing that going well, like I'm not okay. And this is like, how could you possibly be okay? And then sometimes pissed because it's like, that going well what
Yeah.
what we're going through in order to ask me that. But yeah, just embracing my not okay moments, allowing God in those moments, allowing him to have those moments, and literally being the footprint in the sand of where he's carrying me right now. Because I need to be
Yeah. I
free,
love
and that's
that.
okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay. And I love that. And I'm glad you said that, because what I was going to end with and just say was just saying to our sisters how proud I am of you, because sister, she's having a hard time. We're having a hard time, but you were really struggling today, but you still showed up. And I know that God is going to honor that. You're showing up for him in spite of everything that you're going through, kids not sleeping, dealing with grief. You're dealing with grief. Kids dealing with grief. It's tough. It's tough and it's very triggering. So I just believe that God is going to honor that. And I honor you today for showing up in spite of. And we're going to allow God to continue to work in and through to do what he wants to do. And when we're done, I hope you can get a quick little nap because I know you need it. Listen, y'all, she didn't get no sleep last
And
night and
y'all,
she is
the sheet
tired.
is not even on my bed right now. I got to pull the cover over the
So
couch. It's not like,
yeah, just being real with it. Like, there's no need of faking. Somebody's going to be able to relate to that, you know? So, like, I think it's important for us to acknowledge every time we show up for our sisters exactly where we are, because it's going to be relatable. It's going to help somebody else. And God is going to honor it because that's what he wants. He wants total authenticity. And that's what we are giving
yeah,
him from this point forward. That's what he gives.
yes.
So, all right, we are going to wrap up there. If you haven't already joined our online group, please join our group. It's called Let's Talk Sis. It is a group of amazing women that uplift, inspire, and encourage each other. We are getting ready to start our next book challenge, which is a 4 agreement. So we're excited about that.
Yes.
We are also going to be planning a meetup for our sisters in the summer. Don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but more to come about that soon. So please join us. Come on in the room and talk to us. We love to have you join us. And we're going to wrap up there. And we want you to enjoy the rest of your day. And we will see you soon.
See
Bye.